A lonely cowboy was living far from town when a desperate Apache widow suddenly appeared at his door. She was exhausted, scared, and had nothing left except one impossible request. She begged him to marry her, not for love, not for money, but for a reason he could not understand at first. The cowboy wanted to walk away, but what she revealed next made him stop cold. The wind moved slowly across the dry land, brushing against the wooden cabin that stood alone far from any town. Inside, Caleb Morgan sat by a small table, carefully fixing an old lantern. The light inside the room was weak, but it was enough for him. He had grown used to living with only what he needed. Caleb had chosen this life after leaving the ranches where he once worked. Those years had been full of long days, hard labor, and trust that was often broken. At some point, he decided he wanted no part of it anymore. So he moved far away, where the land was open and the nights were quiet. There were no visitors here. Most people did not travel this far unless they had a strong reason. That was why the sound surprised him. A knock came at the door. It was soft at first, almost uncertain. Then it came again, clearer this time. Caleb stopped what he was doing. He looked toward the door and waited. For a moment, he thought he might have imagined it. But then it came again. He stood up slowly and walked to the entrance. When he opened the door, he saw a woman standing outside. She looked worn from travel. Dust covered her boots, and her clothes showed signs of a long journey. Her face carried exhaustion, but her eyes were steady. She was an Apache widow, though Caleb did not know her name yet. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind passed between them, and the silence felt heavy. Caleb studied her carefully. People did not come to his cabin without a reason. Out here, trust was something earned, not given. "You should head back before dark," he said at last. The woman did not move. She held her ground as if she had already decided she would not leave without speaking. "I cannot go back," she said quietly. "I have nowhere left." Her voice carried more weight than her words. Caleb's expression did not change, but something about her tone made him listen more closely. Then she spoke again. "Please," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "marry me." The words stayed in the air between them. Caleb stepped back, unsure he had heard her correctly. A stranger standing at his door was asking for marriage, without explanation, without warning. "I do not even know you," he said. The woman lowered her eyes for a moment, but she did not leave. Whatever brought her here was stronger than her fear of rejection. Then she said something that changed the moment completely. "I am not asking for love. I am asking for survival." Caleb went quiet. And in that silence, he understood this was not a simple request. Something serious had pushed her to this point. Something she was not ready to reveal yet. Caleb stood at the doorway for a long moment after she spoke. The words did not fit into anything he expected from a stranger. Marriage was not something asked for like shelter or food. It was a decision tied to trust, time, and shared life. Yet the woman in front of him looked as if she had already run out of all other choices. He opened the door wider, not inviting her in fully, but giving her space to speak. "You need to explain," he said. She hesitated, as if even speaking about it carried risk. Then she looked past him, toward the empty land behind his cabin, as though checking if anyone else was nearby. "My husband is dead," she said quietly. "Since then, his family has claimed everything I had. My land, my home, even my name in their records. I have no proof left that I belong anywhere." Caleb listened without interrupting. "They said a widow has no standing alone," she continued. "They said I must accept what they decide. If I do not, I will be forced out with nothing." Her hands tightened slightly as she spoke. "I came here because I heard you live alone. I heard you do not answer to anyone." Caleb frowned. "And you think marriage will fix that?" She nodded, though her voice remained low. "If I am married, they cannot take everything so easily. I just need time. I just need protection." For the first time, Caleb saw not a stranger, but someone cornered by circumstances she could not control. Still, the request was heavy. And whatever choice he made next would change both of their lives in ways neither of them fully understood. Caleb stepped outside and closed the door behind him, leaving only the sound of wind between them. He did not trust decisions made in a hurry, especially ones that carried consequences he could not see clearly. "You are asking me to become part of something I do not understand," he said. The woman stood quietly, her eyes fixed on the ground for a moment before she answered. "I am asking you to help me stay alive in the only way I can think of." Those words stayed with him longer than anything else she had said. Caleb looked out across the empty land. He had chosen isolation for a reason. No ties, no obligations, no one to answer to. Yet standing here now, he felt something unfamiliar. Not sympathy exactly, but awareness that her situation was real, not a story made to gain his attention. He turned back to her. "If I say yes, people will ask questions," he said. "You will be tied to my name. You will be tied to my life." "I understand," she replied. "But you do not know what that means out here," he continued. "People talk. They judge. And once something like this starts, it does not stay simple." She finally met his eyes. "Nothing about my life has been simple since my husband died." A long silence followed. Caleb noticed how tired she looked. Not just from travel, but from carrying something heavy for too long without help. He had seen that look before in men who had lost everything and still had to keep walking. "You could go somewhere else," he said, though he already knew she had probably tried. "I did," she answered softly. Every door closed. The wind picked up again, pushing dust across the ground. Caleb felt the weight of her request pressing harder now. It was not just about marriage. It was about trust. About stepping into a situation he had no part in creating, but might still be forced to face. Finally, he spoke. "I will not decide today." The woman nodded, as if even that small delay was something she had hoped for. "I can stay outside," she said. Caleb shook his head slightly. "You can stay in the shed for the night. We will talk in the morning." She hesitated, then gave a quiet nod. As she walked toward the small storage shed, Caleb remained standing in the fading light, realizing that his quiet life had already begun to change, whether he was ready or not. Morning came with a pale light spreading across the land. Caleb stepped out of his cabin and saw the woman already awake near the shed. She stood still, watching the empty fields as if she was waiting for something to arrive with the sunrise. He walked toward her slowly. "You did not sleep much," he said. She nodded once. "I am used to it." There was a long pause before Caleb spoke again. "I need to know everything before I decide anything." She took a breath, then turned to face him fully. "My husband was not just a farmer," she said. "He had land that others wanted. After he died, his family moved quickly. They changed records. They removed my name from everything." Caleb listened carefully, saying nothing. "They told me I had no right to stay. But I had lived there for years. That land was my only home." Her voice grew quieter. "When I refused to leave, they sent men to scare me. At first, I thought I could endure it. Then I realized I could not fight them alone." She looked down at her hands. "I heard about you from a trader. He said you live outside of town and avoid others. I thought if I could be married, even in name only, they would stop pushing me out." Caleb studied her face. There was no sign of dishonesty, only exhaustion and fear that had been carried too long. "You are asking me to stand between you and people who will not accept it easily," he said. "I am asking for a chance to keep what is left of my life," she replied. Caleb turned away, looking across the open land again. For the first time in years, his isolation did not feel complete. Something had entered it, and it would not leave quietly. And he knew whatever he decided next would not stay simple for long. Caleb stood near the fence line as the wind moved through the dry grass. Everything he had built his life around was distance and silence. No attachments. No trouble. No one depending on him. Now that balance was broken. He turned back toward the cabin where the woman waited. "You are asking for more than protection," he said. "You are asking me to step into a fight that is not mine." She met his eyes, calm but tired. "I am asking for a chance to keep what I have left." Caleb did not answer right away. He looked at the land, then at the road that led away from it. Finally, he spoke. "If I do this, There is no easy way back. The woman nodded. After a long pause, Caleb gave a small breath and said, "Then we do it properly. No lies. No confusion." And in that moment, both of them understood that a simple request had just changed everything. What began as a desperate request turned into a decision that neither Caleb nor the Apache widow could fully understand at the start. Two strangers, both carrying their own burdens, were now tied together by circumstances neither of them chose. Sometimes life does not give clear answers. It only gives moments where you decide whether to walk away or stay and face what comes next. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to think about the choices people make when they feel they have no options left. You never know how much strength is hidden behind a quiet face. If you enjoyed this story, like the video, subscribe for more emotional stories like this, and share it with someone who believes in second chances and unexpected bonds. And tell me in the comments, would you have said yes or walked away?